Hi, I'm Anne-Marie from Soap Queen TV and BrambleBerry.com. Thanks so much for joining me today. Today, I'm going to be using a water bottle ice cube mold to show you how to make fancy polka dots in layered soaps. I'm also going to be expanding on the concept of non-bleeding colors and how important they are for making layered soaps. In today's episode, we're going to be making this bar of soap. How great does this look? Using this simple mold that I got at REI that's normally used for making ice cubes for water bottles, we're also going to be using a lot of non-bleeding colors: ultramarine blue, hydrated chromium oxide green, non-bleeding red, non-bleeding yellow, and super pearly white. The fragrance I've chosen for this project is pomegranate and blackcurrant. The reason I chose this fragrance is because it's a non-discoloring fragrance that stays water white in the soap. And finally, I'm using a clear loaf mold. I love using loaf molds that are clear because then I can see the thickness of my layers. Now that we've got all the supplies assembled, let's get started. First, make the long yellow rods that we use to make the polka dots. Here I have my clear soap, adding a little bit of fragrance. This pomegranate and blackcurrant smells delicious. Next, I add my yellow color. Now that I've got it the color I want, meaning the hue is perfect, I'd like to add a little bit of shimmer and sparkle. Super pearly white's ideal for turning any color into a color powerhouse. Now that my soap is colored and fragranced, it's time to pour into my water bottle ice cube mold. Making sure that the bottom is fully on, pour gently into the mold. Spritz the top with rubbing alcohol to get rid of any last-minute bubbles. Wait 2 to 4 hours for this to all harden naturally. Ideally, you're going to want to refrain from putting this in the refrigerator or freezer. Soap that's been in the refrigerator or freezer for too long often won't adhere to layers, and since we have so many layers in this project, any one thing could turn the whole thing into a disaster where the layers don't stick together. Now, if your fingers get tired like mine did trying to push all these yellow rods out, I did cheat a little. I put this in the freezer for just 3 minutes. 3 minutes was enough to shrink up the soap just enough so that it slid out of the mold easily. You can do this, but only this once. Now that the yellow rods are made, it's time to make the layers. First, melt your soap. Now it's time to turn this hydrated chrome green into something that can actually go into your soap. If you just try to put this green pigment directly into your soap, it will clump up because it's oil soluble. Mix your hydrated chrome green with a little bit of rubbing alcohol. Mix it together well. Add your fragrance. Take a dropper full of your now liquid color and put it into your soap. Now, to make the perfect teal, I just need a little bit of ultramarine blue. Looks like 3 drops will be perfect. Pour this mixture into the bottom of your loaf soap. Make sure your temperature is no hotter than 135. You don't want to accidentally melt your polka dots. Take your polka dots, spritz them liberally with rubbing alcohol. Place them wherever you want. You notice I'm placing mine over to the edge of the soap. And the final step, spritz with rubbing alcohol. Let this harden so there's a thick skin on top of this. Ideally, 1/8 of an inch thick to 1/4 inch thick should support the weight of the next layer. Repeat this with the next layer. I use non-bleeding red, and to add some difference and interest, I only did 1 yellow polka dot rod throughout this entire one. Now it's time for the final layer. I'm going to show you how to make this cool polka dot triangle. Melt the clear soap in the microwave. Now, this is when you get to make your cool polka dot soapy triangle. With a dropper, pull out some of the soap. Use the dropper of soap to glue the rods together. Hold them tight with your hand. After about 15 seconds, they should be fully glued together. Take a third rod, fill up a dropper full of soap again, and glue this third rod on top of the other 2 rods. There you have it, your soapy triangle. Repeat this until you have 3 or 4 full rods of soapy triangles so that you'll go down the entire length of the loaf mold. Take the clear soap, fragrance it. I'm using pomegranate and blackcurrant. Then color it. Here I'm using Bramble Berry's liquid non-bleeding blue pigment. Spritz the second layer of your soap liberally with rubbing alcohol. Make sure that your third layer, the blue soap, isn't steaming or boiling so it won't accidentally melt that layer. Pour it over the entire loaf of soap. Take your soapy polka dot triangles, spray them lots and liberally with alcohol. Place them gently in your loaf mold. Spray with alcohol, and you're done. Thanks for joining me today on Soap Queen TV. Check back on the next episode where I'll be showing you how to take layered soaps to the next 80s geometric perfection. I'll show you an advanced layering technique that you won't believe. Until then, happy soaping.